Hi, everybody. Vasu Vaddiparty here with the VPartySports Podcast. This weekend, NFL games, wildcard weekend, super wildcard weekend, I guess is the NFL terminology now. We got 6 games, 2 on Saturday, 3 Sunday, and 1 Monday night after the NFL expanded to 7 teams in each conference. Just for bookkeeping purposes, the Eagles and Chiefs are the 1 seed. They have the bye week. 3 games are going to face division opponents. The Bengals and the Ravens, the Bills and the Dolphins, and our guest, Jen Mueller, the sideline reporter for the Seattle Seahawks. If you know baseball, you see her on Root Sports doing Mariners games and doing Kraken games as well, too, up there. We welcome in Jen Mueller to the VPartySports Podcast. Hi, Jen.
Hi. It's fun to be talking about football this time of year.
It is, for you guys especially. I mean, you guys were about a missed kick away in the emotion last Sunday. Let's get to last Sunday real quick before we kind of break down the season a little bit and get to the game. Boy, that must have been just a collective sigh of disappointment when Jason Myers kicked the field goal off the upright. And then finally you got the overtime win and you were back up cheering as loud as that stadium can be on Sunday afternoon after you got the overtime kick. What was it like for you just to go through the emotions?
You know, you knew that it was going to be a close game. And I don't think that missed kick was as deflating as you might think. I think there was still a lot of optimism there, but you would have liked to have won in regulation. But, you know, that's not the way that it went. He's been such money all year long. That is the worst ends of the end zone to kick into. There were swirling winds. He made sure that he did not miss twice in that game. And then we all kind of watched on the edge of our seats on Sunday night to see what Detroit was going to do. And I did not use my inside voice when cheering for the Lions, that's for sure.
How about that? The Detroit Lions go into Green Bay. You beat the Lions. Who knew that Week 4 win against the Lions was going to come down to the tiebreaker edge in terms of your playoff opportunity, because now you had to root for a team that doesn't typically go into Green Bay. That's a division game for them against Green Bay. They go into Green Bay and they come out with a win. And how about Dan Campbell and those Detroit Lions and what a year they had? I mean, it's kind of sad for them not to be in it as well, too. But you guys are in, and no hard feelings here whatsoever for anybody as long as you guys are in. But talk about your emotion watching the game on Sunday night and the collective fan base. I mean, I saw pictures on TV. NBC had pictures in sports bars and people cheering and kind of worrying and all this other stuff. Were you at home, or were you out to dinner or something like that?
I was at home. I was at home making dinner with a glass of wine in hand. And, you know, it was interesting. It's interesting how the expectations for this season have changed, right? Because if I were to tell you at the beginning of the year, Seattle has a winning record. They are 9-8, that Geno record set franchise records that, did I say Geno record? Geno Smith. That was a slip, yeah. But perfect slip right there. Had set franchise records. You would have been happy with that. But after that win, and truly what was most important about Seattle's win on Sunday was it was the first time that team had won when trailing at halftime this season. So when you saw that fight and that comeback, you knew that it was possible. You just didn't want it to end like that. So lots of emotion watching the Lions and the Packers, but also just kind of the content, maybe not the right word, but knowing that the season was still a success, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. I watched every game. I see you guys all the time. In fact, I'll give you this. This is how much I pay attention when you're doing baseball. I kid with Dave all the time. Dave Sims, the TV voice. I kid with him. I go, nobody's put me on yet because I hashtag where I root.
So I don't know how I've missed that, but we will keep an eye out for it.
Next time, VPartySports, Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on the podcast with Jen Mueller, Seattle Seahawks sideline reporter on the radio, watching the Seahawks come into the Bay Area where I live tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, 1:30 Pacific time, against a team that you're awfully familiar with. Week 2, the 49ers. They hit Geno Smith 9 times. I was looking at the second box score. They hit him again 9 times in Seattle. Unfortunately, 2 49er wins. Pete Carroll knows they've won 10 in a row, and they're playing as well as anybody defensively. I would imagine attacking that defense is probably the number one thing on Pete Carroll's list this Saturday.
Well, I think certainly doing that by running the ball. Seattle has not run the ball well at all against the 49ers, and it makes sense when they've got the best defense in the league, allowing the fewest points and the fewest yards. But Seattle also fell behind early in those games, and they had some turnovers that are really costly against the team with the best turnover differential in the league. So, yes, definitely attacking and slowing down that defense. But in order to do that, you are going to have to move the ball on the ground, and you are going to have to stick with it. You can't just have a handful of runs in the first half or the first quarter that don't go for much and then get away from that game plan. You've got to be consistent and be willing to stick with it. Kenneth Walker III has shown that he can find those tough yards and then break things open at the end of games, but they have not been in position to do that against the Niners, partly because the Niners force them into third and longs, right? They haven't been converting on first and second. But, yeah, there's a lot of things Seattle needs to clean up in this game against the Niners.
What does Pete see in the 49ers in this 10-game winning streak? Is there something specific that he's noticed that they've done? They're just doing everything well.
It's everything. I mean, it's everything. He has praised this team so much, from the coaching all the way down to special teams, and you can see why. They're hitting on all cylinders. Kyle Shanahan is a crazy good play caller. Brock Purdy is executing at the highest level of any 49ers quarterback this year. You already know this. They've increased their points per game by more than 10 since he has taken over. And then you've got that defense that just gets in a track stance and goes after the quarterback. It is all phases. And they make you defend the entire field. You can't just say that you're going to take away one guy. They've got such versatility. You're going to be going sideline to sideline, covering every blade of grass. It is a taxing matchup.
I like your secondary on defense. I'm not sure. The defensive line, Al Woods, has been great all year. Linebacking, the games that I've seen, you had that tough stretch in the middle of the year when you went to Germany, and then came back to 1-3 after going 6-3 to start the year. Then come back and go 2-2. The Jets game the Panthers game could have really hurt you a little bit. I was thinking of Sam Darnold with the 2 ex-Jets. That's why I said the Jets game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the Seahawks Panthers game could have been really deflating from that standpoint. Then Thursday night, you come back on 3 days rest. Kansas City, we know what the Chiefs are. And then you beat the Jets. The Jets have their own issues. And then, of course, last week in overtime. Talk about the ebbs and flows of Seattle for the people that have not seen the Seahawks this year a lot. Talk about the ebbs and flows from 6-3 to where you were in the middle of the year to the end of the year.
Yeah, there's definitely been some injuries that have affected things like that. They've played great in stretches, and they have not been as consistent during those kind of downward trends. They had found a way to stop the run in the middle of the season after that game against Detroit and New Orleans. They were allowing almost, 160 rushing yards a game, and that's still skewed pretty much towards that end of the spectrum. But then they found a way to kind of slow things down to stop things. The offense had been clicking. Geno taking what the defense was giving them. They were staying on schedule. They were moving the ball downfield. When things were not going well for Seattle, they moved away from the run game. They did have injuries to both running backs. I should say all 3 running backs, but 2 in one game. And, then you had a defensive line that couldn't get to the quarterback. What we have seen, and they also weren't getting takeaways, what we have seen in the last 3 games, starting with the second half of that game in Kansas City, which, by the way, the Seahawks held KC to their lowest yardage total of the season. And they rushed for over 100 yards, with most of that coming in the second half. So what's going well right now is they're running the ball. They have created turnovers, and they are getting that pass rush to the quarterback.
Is it fair to say the secondary is the strength of the team right now defensively? Because I like Woolen a lot, and I like Diggs back there. I know they gave up a lot of yards, and they were leaking oil during that 4-game stretch with the Raiders and the Buccaneers kind of ran all over them in Germany, and then the Panthers came in and ran on them a little bit. But I still like that secondary, and I still think they can give problems to Brock Purdy. He's still a young quarterback. He hasn't been in this type of pressure in the playoffs. By the way, and I'm sure you know this, you're the only team to face all 3 starting quarterbacks for the 49ers, right?
That's funny, because I thought you were going to say we are the only team that has had their starting quarterback take every snap for their team this year. But fun facts on both sides of that one.
That's true. Oh, there you go. That's right. Geno Smith is there. Let's talk about Geno Smith here in the last few minutes I have with you. Russell gets traded. Russell Wilson gets traded. The first game, I mean, the NFL picks storylines, right? Denver comes in week 1 on Monday night, and the crowd's buzzing. We could see it on TV. I could feel it on my TV here in San Jose, California. Just watching, I can only imagine what it was there. You get a victory. You start off well, come down to San Francisco, and then you lose. But talk about that first night. Geno Smith kind of established himself as the quarterback. I mean, he kind of got thrown in there at the beginning because I don't think a lot of people had a lot of confidence in Geno Smith for what's happened in the past, but look at the year he's had. Look at the Pro Bowl berth that he got. Look at everything that he's done, and he's led this team with that veteran presence. I mean, even as a backup, you can have a veteran presence, and he was it, and he had a great year both on the field and off the field, it seems like.
Yeah, and, there should be no other players receiving votes for comeback player of the year. I mean, I hate to say that because I'm sure that somebody is deserving and has worked really hard. But man, you could not write a better story than the one that Geno Smith has written this year. I think one of the cool things and where this all comes full circle for him, you talk about that week 1 game, the fans were chanting his name. Never once in the 10 years that I covered Russell Wilson did I ever hear the fans chanting specifically for Russ.
Yeah.
And last week, as Geno is leading the game-winning field goal drive, they are once again chanting his name. And last week was certainly not his best week. And he would say that. He has been very accurate in his assessment of his play. When he has not played well, he's been very accurate. And it's very clear that his standards have always been this high. And I'm going to be honest, when you stand and watch practice, you're usually looking at the starting quarterback. You're not paying attention to the second and the third string guys because you're watching first team defense, right? I should have been paying more attention. And now when I watch him in practice, the same sorts of things we said about Russ, about, man, he throws a pretty deep ball. He really does. He's got zip on it. He's got vision. It's been so fun. It's been so fun to listen to him with the media. He hasn't missed a beat. He's got great answers. He's funny. I am so happy for Geno and for what he's doing. And Tyler Lockett and the receiver said this week, the fact that he has set the franchise record for completions, completion percentage, and passing yards, that's not just Geno. That's his willingness to spread the ball around. It's not just about him. It's about who he involves every game day. And gosh, it's been so fun to watch.
So Jen Mueller, our guest here, Seattle Seahawks Sideline Reporter, coming into San Francisco, Santa Clara, actually, to play the 49ers in the wildcard game this weekend. Number 2, 49ers, number 7, Seahawks coming in. Let's talk about the running backs for Seattle here a little bit. I saw the depth chart. They all have Q's next to them for questionable. I'm imagining that Walker is going to be healthy. DJ Dallas, I haven't heard a lot about him. I know he's great on special teams. So any update for the people out there for the injury list?
Yeah, I would expect both of those guys to play. Ken Walker, they've been managing an ankle injury that came up a handful of weeks ago. He's rushed for over 100 yards in each of the last 3 games. He's done that 5 times this season. I would expect that he's going to get a lot of work on Saturday because rain in the forecast. It's going to even the playing field for both sides, but I don't know that you're going to throw into the teeth of that wind and rain very much. When it comes to DJ Dallas, traditionally a third down back. He's also a heck of a special teamer, but last week they used him in Wildcat. You could see him used all over the place. So it's fun to have him back on the field. Did have a thigh bruise after getting hit last week, but made it through practice and looks like he's trending towards playing on Saturday as well.
Key to the 49ers for the Seattle defense, I would think it would have to start with McCaffrey. They're a totally different team since McCaffrey got traded. Obviously, they've got the win streak going right now. So I got to think that McCaffrey is going to be the big key for Seattle's defense coming into the game to start.
I would definitely think they're going to keep an eye on him, but more than that, because it's not just McCaffrey that makes that offense run, right? You've got so many playmakers, and it was Kittle who hurt last time. There were 2 big plays, and I think if the defense had to answer that question, what they would say is limit the explosive plays. Right. There was a 54-yard touchdown play to Kittle that killed him. Now, the first touchdown in that Thursday night game was such a beautiful play design. Like, it was a 2 fake. That one, you kind of just marvel at Shanahan's play calling and design. But the second one, That shouldn't have happened. That was busted coverage. There was also a run with about a minute to go that went for 55 yards that sealed the game. The Niners have the third most plays of 20 or more yards this season. So it's limited explosives. Be disciplined. You know what Shanahan's going to do. You know that he's going to flip the sides. You're not going to get the exact same look, but you're going to get something similar, maybe on the opposite side of the field. So eye discipline and making your tackles to limit explosives, I think, is what it comes down to.
It's going to be a great weekend, NFL wildcard weekend. It all gets started Saturday afternoon out here in the Bay Area where I am. Jen Mueller with the Seattle Seahawks Sideline Radio Reporter for the team. They're coming down tomorrow on Friday to get ready for this wildcard game. We'll see what happens this weekend. Jen, I really appreciate the time. I know we did this on late notice, but thank you very much. Hang on for a second, and I'll say goodbye here real quick. Thanks to everybody for the VPartySports Podcast. We'll be back with more, some NBA, college football, or college basketball, and then more on the wild card weekend. We'll give you the best bets as well, too. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is VPartySports Podcast. Back in 1 minute.